Shalom everybody, I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief, where you guys have a date with me every Monday to Thursday. It's my favorite time of the week, and we take a look at those top stories that make the headlines here in Israel. And as always, we are brought to you in partnership with these guys, Lay of the Land. Now, many of you ask me about Lay of the Land's work, and you can find it all on our website at www.layoftheland.online. We also put out a weekly newsletter, so if you want to subscribe, please be in touch with us via our website. So let's get into those top stories. It is day 376. 376 days that 101 hostages remain held captive by Hamas terrorists in the dungeons of Gaza. At the moment, we know that there are many of them who are not alive anymore. We want them released so that we can bring them home for a dignified burial, so that their families have a place to mourn, and that there are still also many that are alive who we want home immediately so that we can reunite them with their families and start the recovery process. Tonight we start Sukkot. We ask you all to please keep the hostages and their families in your thoughts and in your prayers. For those of you who might not know what Sukkot is the Feast of the Tabernacles. So let's get into those top stories, and we begin with the United States, and in a very strongly worded letter to the Minister of Strategic Affairs, Ron Dermer, and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, the American Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, and the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, have demanded that Israel do everything they can to improve aid supply to Gaza or face possible military aid consequences. Now, this follows a statement by Vice President Kamala Harris saying that there needs to be more done to let in aid. However, these accusations are contradicted by COGAT, that's the unit that's responsible for the coordination of aid into the territories. And what we have seen on a daily basis is aid continuously going inside the Gaza Strip. In fact, just a short while ago, COGAT updated and said 50 trucks had entered the Allenby crossing from Jordan's side. And yesterday we brought you that story that 104 aid trucks had gone in, and that only 12 had been collected by aid agencies and 530 were waiting for collection. Now, of course, we're not privy to the letter, but it would be very curious to say what kind of role they place on Hamas and other gangs inside the Gaza Strip who have been caught on camera hijacking that aid and also reselling it to the civilians of Gaza at an astronomical amount of money. The letter goes on to say that Israel has 30 days to rectify this or face an audit. And they went on to say that as per the American laws on military aid, the humanitarian aid must increase. They claim that September was the month of the lowest amount of aid going into the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, earlier today, UNRWA chief Philippe Lazzarini said that UNRWA is at near collapse, that very soon, he says soon, but I don't know when, UNRWA will cease to be able to carry out its humanitarian aid duties inside the Gaza Strip. Well, APAC, that is the lobby group that is responsible for lobbying about Jewish American interests, and is no different to any other lobbying group. For those of you who have a lot to say about APAC, definitely not from our Lay of the Land or Israel Brief community, but APAC had this to say: threatening to cut off American support for Israel as it confronts Iran and its proxies on 7 fronts weakens our allies, undermines American interests, and sends a dangerous message to our common enemies about US support for our democratic allies. And this is why many of us think that we do have Hamas refusing all the ceasefire agreements and the agreements to release the hostages, because they know that they can play whatever game that they want, because the American support, the support of our allies, isn't as ironclad as they make out to be. And while we're on the subject of allies, the next one, which is France, which says that they are dedicated to Israel's security, well, we seem to have a war of words brewing between Prime Minister Netanyahu and the French President Emmanuel Macron. The two spoke yesterday in what I can only presume was a very uneasy conversation. During this conversation, President Macron emphasized that France would like Israel to unilaterally end its military campaign in Lebanon. Prime Minister Netanyahu says that he disagrees with this request or this decision, saying that Israel cannot withdraw until the security situation in Lebanon has changed, that we don't have Hezbollah, an Iranian-sponsored proxy, who has been firing thousands, in fact, way over 13,000 rockets and anti-tank mortars into Israeli territory for now over a year, which prohibits our citizens or civilians who live in the north from returning to their homes. Now, the Prime Minister was also quite taken aback by the President's plans to host a conference in Paris later this year that would discuss the conflict or the military campaign in Lebanon. And the French president has invited countries like South Africa and Algeria, who are extremely critical of Israel, to this conference. Now, I'm going to read to you from a quote because we have had an exchange of words. The president reportedly told his cabinet, Mr. Netanyahu must not forget that his country was created by a decision of the United Nations. Now, this was regarding a lot of criticism that Israel had reportedly injured UNIFIL troops. According to military experts who have been in the north, these troops were lightly injured and some suffered some skin irritations and a little bit of nausea from the smoke screen that Israel created in order to evacuate soldiers that were injured. They weren't really that hurt. And of course, we're all wondering, what is UNIFIL actually doing in that region? Because they certainly have not fulfilled their mandate, which is to prevent Hezbollah from militarizing or arming and attacking Israel. So one wonders what they're up to. The Prime Minister responded with a very, very strong retort, saying that a reminder to the President of France, Israel was not established by a UN resolution, but through the victory achieved in the War of Independence, paid for with the blood of heroic fighters, many of whom were Holocaust survivors, including from the Vichy regime in France. Now, I, of course, love my soapbox and want to jump on my soapbox, and I have a message for President Macron. Monsieur le Président, Israel has been a country that has existed with a Jewish presence for thousands of years. For thousands of years, we have spoken Hebrew, and for thousands of years, we have observed the rituals and the customs that we still keep today. In fact, we're going to start the observation of Sukkot a little later, something that we have been doing for thousands of years. The modern state might have only been created in 1948, but our presence here has been unbroken for millennia. We were not created out of the benevolence of European and other leaders seeking to alleviate their guilt because of the Holocaust. We have been here for thousands of years. Antiquity proves it, our custom proves it, the Hebrew language which we have revived proves it. And to say otherwise is a violation of Judeo-Christian values that not only we the Jewish people hold dear, but billions of Christians around the world hold dear as well. So, Mr. President, if you are watching, those are my words for you. And we now go to Geneva. It seems we're doing a whole tour of the world where an interparliamentary meeting in Geneva of about 195 parliaments with representatives from those respective parliaments gathered to meet earlier this week. Now, a resolution was put forward by the Palestinian delegation calling for Israel to withdraw from Gaza, Lebanon, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. Well, this resolution failed to garner its 2/3 majority vote and was soundly defeated. In protest, the Iranian delegation and many other Arab delegations got up and walked out chanting "Free, Free Palestine," and also calling the Israeli delegation murderers. The Israeli delegation, when the motion was defeated, cheered loudly, and the representatives there, that included a representative from the Center Yesh Atid party and the Likud party, as well as other factions. One of the representatives, MK Dan Iluz, said that we will not be lectured to by the Palestinian Authority that still adopts a policy of pay for slay, where they give salaries to the murderers of Jews, and went on to say that unlike the Palestinians, Israel is a democracy that respects international law. So that is a real win for the state of Israel, proving that there are many around the world who understand our fight against terror, and that essentially we are the vanguard of the free world. And finally, let's talk about Sukkot, the Feast of the Tabernacles. Usually a very joyful time of the year for Jews, for Israelis, but of course this year being the first Sukkot in the shadow of the 7th of October atrocities, and also the days leading up to Simchat Torah, the Hebrew anniversary of the 7th of October. And you can feel Israelis, you can feel our trepidation in the air. And as I told you earlier this week, we will be observing a second day of mourning. Well, the Sukkot are out. I was out a couple of hours ago around Modi'in, where I live. And the vibe is, I would say, trepidatious. Many of us concerned that we might have sirens in our respective cities tonight, which will force us indoors seeking shelter. But I also wanted to share my observations, because right now when I think of Sukkot, I think of going down south to cities like Sderot, to the kibbutzim, in the weeks and months that followed the attacks, and what was still standing amongst the burnt ruins of Kfar Aza and Nachal Oz, the kibbutz, and in the city of Sderot were the Sukkot. In fact, I recall being on Nachal Oz, the kibbutz side, and all the homes were largely intact. The only real sign of a massacre that you could see were the Zaka stickers from where those righteous volunteers from Zaka had come in and removed the body and removed bodies and removed the blood and remains. But in the dairy section of this kibbutz, it's a kibbutz that is also a dairy farm, where you could see that the dairy production facility had largely been set alight. You could see bullet holes everywhere. You could see that the communal area where the Thai and foreign workers, where they stayed, that was largely just decimated. But what was standing was a sukkah. And as somebody wrote in the Jewish Chronicle in an extremely moving article, it is almost symbolic of us as a nation, of us as a country, that our very foundations, the cement, the stone, the brick, was destroyed to its core. But the simple foundations of cloth and of wooden or metal frame, where we really trust in the power of the Almighty, those remained standing. And with that, I want to wish you a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom. There will not be an Israel Brief tomorrow because it is Sukkot. And to wish you all Chag Sukkot Sameach. As always, you can check out our website at www.layoftheland.online, our Facebook page at Lottel's site, our YouTube channel right here at the Israel Brief. We're on Instagram on my personal page at Rolene_Marks, on LinkedIn at Rolene Marks. So guys, God bless you all. Take care. We wish you all a wonderful weekend. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. I will see you again on Monday. Bye for now.